Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for the press conference with, of course, Philippine Esports Organization's Executive Director Marlon Marcelo and also Mountain Games League Operations Lead Matthew Chan. So the purpose of this interview or press conference is to really shed some light on what transpired last week, specifically the gambling and match fixing issues that plagued both MPL Philippines and MPL Philippines. So once again, we thank our distinguished panel for this afternoon. So I guess we can start the discussion now by maybe sharing the SOPs of Mountain Games or MPL and MPL Philippines when handling issues like this.
Okay, hello, everybody. I hope if you guys are okay with this, be fully in English and not Filipino, unfortunately, even though so just to share very specific on how we tackle anything like this. So first and foremost, we always keep a lookout from other teams. All teams are our partners, and whenever they send a complaint or report or anything like that, we will go and investigate the relevant parties. So specifically for MDL, this time around, we received a complaint from one of the teams that something relevant like this was happening, and we reached out to all the teams that may have been involved into this. We reached out to their players, we reach out to their staff, their management, any relevant parties, and we go to them directly, to the source. So we would go to their boot camps, to their offices. We don't just chat online because we want to make sure everything is authentic and accurate. After we delegate and once we see all the investigation, then we will come into a conclusion. So in this time around, the conclusion was very clear. For RELG players, two of the players admitted to us that they did receive cash or monetary in exchange of match fixing. And for the other one, which is TNC-Z4 player, it was very specific on the chat we requested, and it was attained on the official basis that there was very strong probable cause that he did commit, or at least the probable cause is really strong. So there's a reason why it took, I think, roughly around 5 or 6 days, is because we need to go through the proper due process. As most of these players, they are underage, so we need to get parental consent, and also to make sure that we get the facts right. Because there's no reason for us to push for something fast where we will change later on. We need to make sure it is right. So that's the whole process.
Can you describe the cooperation between Mountain Games and Peso and that? Like when this happened, can you describe in chronological order?
So when this happened, I think actually Peso was the one, or Marlon specifically, reached out to us to say that he will support in any way possible, but also was respectful for our investigation, and it happened in Finaldi. So after going through all the process, we sat down together with Peso and also kept him updated with what we've been doing. After that, we go through on the next phases. So we shared all our investigation documents together with Peso. And actually, the reason for this press conference is to really look into the point that match fixing is something that we don't support, or is something that we want to really knock down on. This is just the start of the whole thing that we're fighting on. Doing this press conference is not to say it's a done deal, it's job done. It's just a start, and we do plan to do a lot more initiatives together with Peso and also GAB on fighting this whole incident, I would say.
On Peso's side, can you share with us, Sir Marlon, the preventive measures that Peso is implementing to ensure fairness and integrity among the players?
So definitely, hello everyone. So this is not a good issue to talk to, but we need to be straightforward on this. And I applaud Montun together with Matt's team and everyone here that is actually making sure that we want to push forward with all esports events in the Philippines to have a very high integrity in terms of making sure that there are no match fixing and gambling on the side. And for Peso's part, what we are planning to do is number one, together with the sanctions of Montun, we will also have our own sanctions for these athletes. And we will release it later, but for the purposes of transparency, the athletes that have been punished by Montun will also be punished by Peso. by having a 3-year ban on all CBOL-related tournaments, peso sanctioned events, and peso organized events. This ban is not taken to consideration because there were a lot of talks on how long should the ban will be and how severe it is for these athletes, because we understand that these athletes should deserve another chance. But we must be very strict and make sure that these kinds of things do not happen again. So together with Muntun, we will be creating additional steps, and we will be talking to teams starting next season on how to proactively combat these types of scenarios. Okay, we will be having strict protocols because these are kids. They don't know what's going to happen if someone PMs them and then they say, hey, you have a business opportunity, right? What will be the protocol? The athlete might say, what's that? And then conversation comes in. But as an athlete or as a professional, what should be the professional or SOP and the steps that you should actually do if someone offers you this? And the bigger point is, we also want to catch this bad actors, specifically those that are actually wanting to disrupt our industry. So of course our athletes are also victims of this. So we would want to we will actually have a program wherein we can try and catch these bad actors as well. Of course, we cannot divulge how we are going to do that, but Peso is actively pursuing this as well. And yeah, I'm sure that this is one of the stronger issues that needs to be addressed to you guys and of course to everyone in the esports scene as well.
Thank you so much, Sir Marlon and Matthew. I think I should turn over the microphone for the difference for their questions now. Go ahead, Marlon.
Good afternoon po. Thank you to Peso and to Muntun for accommodating this interview with the press corps. My first question is for Boss Lon. Yung mga offenses po na nagawa, are these criminal acts under Philippine law?
Currently, Matt is currently coordinating with GAB for the full extent of what can be done through our laws.
Are you also looking at tapping the NBI to really get to the root, see the mga perpetrating the worst?
Definitely, that's our plan. But of course, we would want to get GAB's guidance as well. So since GAB is one of the forefronts of this kinds of issue, as NSA, we would always want to cooperate with them and then give them the heads up kung paano talaga yung SOP. Because definitely, with this kinds of investigation, it needs to be very specific and very thorough. That's why Matt was saying it took a bit of time because we have to make sure that we get to the facts. And with these kinds of information is really, I would say, a bit challenging to navigate kasi maraming tatamaan eh. But we have to make sure that everything is factual and we move in terms of accordance within our laws.
My second question po, sir, is salamat po na nabanggit yung mga minor, yung mga bata at binanggit nyo rin po na biktima sila. This is systemic problem more than talagang problema ng mga players. No? Kasi minors po sila at wala silang capacity to decide on their own since they're minors. How are we protecting the players? Kasi last season po, di ba, naging matunog itong game intensity issue dito sa liga. Pero hindi lang po pumunto kasi wala po diferensya. Pero ngayon nagkaroon ng mga screenshots, ay may ebidensya pa lang nangyayari. So, how are we protecting the kids from this kind of problem?
So definitely on Moonton side, they have their own programs on this. On our side, Peso, we will be stepping in, and we have our own internal protocols on how to combat it. So we will be asking a representative from all the teams, hopefully managers, team owners, and then captains. Then we have to sit down and tell them how to combat this internally first. To be honest, I've been in match fixing issues as well from my previous ventures, and this has, of course, something. So in the Philippines, this is a prevailing issue. Other games, in my previous days, Dota, it has been occurring as well. And the realization is, you're right. We also need to protect the teams, the athletes, and the stakeholders para hindi magkaroon ng bad influence dun sa mga gustong kumuha nun. And the biggest thing is we must be able to catch whoever this bad actors is and be punished by the full extent of our laws. That's why it's a full cooperation with everyone. Right?
Can you repeat the question in English just to make sure I understand?
Okay, I'm sorry. What I asked Sir Marlon was, how are we protecting the kids, considering that they are minors?
Okay, so actually this is something we do it very specifically, and this is something actually Keith himself highlighted for the players that actually has been provided the punishment. We also reach out to them personally to make sure that they are okay on a personal level, even though they did do something that is something that we're against, but they're still humans at the end. And we also make sure that the teams are offering support to the players in a way that they don't just, for lack of a better term, throw them away, right? Because they trust the teams, they trust the management. That's why we keep in a very close contact with the management to make sure that they're checking in with the players. So this is for this current case, right? But I think to add on to what Marlon mentioned is that this is a team effort, right? It's not only us, it's not only the teams, but it's also maybe the media as well, to make sure that this doesn't affect the industry that we all love. The reason why we're all here is because we love esports, right? And the honest truth is this hurts the whole integrity of every single facet of esports, right? From media to league to even being just a professional player. So we need the cooperation. That's why I think like what Marlon mentioned, we are going to be more active, at least proactive, to fight against match fixing. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. My question for you, Michael, is what are the systemic failures that you identify that allow this problem to happen?
I wouldn't really call them failures per se, but it's just more of maybe lack of communication, right? Because from our investigation, we realized that actually the teams and the management were quite open in educating the players themselves. It's just that in the past they were not pure education coming from PESO level or us to really shed the light. That's why we really want to create a program to educate them regarding how this whole consequence is. That's why directly, right? The organizations themselves, we reached out to them, we checked all the evidence or proof. They did try to talk to the players. It is just unfortunately, like what Marlon mentioned, this is a problem within the whole esports ecosystem, right? And we need to keep actively fighting against it. It is an active battle, and we hope that after, this is just the start. Like I mentioned, it's not the end of it, but we keep on pushing and doing more.
My last question is for both of you, either of you can answer, but I was talking with highly based sources in several teams, asking them, why does match fixing seem to be more prevalent in the developmental league compared with the professional league? And some of their answers were, well, because the salaries in the MPL is significantly smaller than the MPL, the price pool is also significantly smaller. That's why maybe some of the players are tempted to accept these offers, business offers. What do you say to that?
Okay, maybe I can answer first then.
Yeah.
Right. In the name itself, it's a developmental league. right? And most of the MPL players, if you look at the age range, except for our rare occasion of Chakmu going down there this season, it's really low. It is to serve a purpose to help the players to build their careers. Most of these players actually in the world stage or even MPL stage, they mostly come from MPL. Look at just like the players that's playing right now, right? We hear most of them come from MPL. These development leagues or second leagues are meant to harness players, to give them a path to help them play. I don't think that the lower salary or anything should be an excuse per se. It's more the education, right? Where we really need to create a program to tell them how can this affect your career. Just because you accept this one time, it's going to hurt your career for the rest of your life. We've seen it from other esports titles and even sports in general, where you take this one moment, lapse of judgment, and we need to really showcase that how heavy this is, right? Because this will effectively just cancel your whole career. That's why I think it's more of an education, and this is part of the ecosystem of how esports is, right? You need to prove yourself if you win MDL. I'm sure that if you look at the history of MDL from previous seasons, most of the winners, they come in after MPL. They slowly go up, and even in other regions, right? We know this, right? Even SRG, Innocent and Crab, they are MDL champions. It is part of the ecosystem. I think it's more of the lack of education and also more of being proactive. I think that is the real answer. If you want.
Just to add also, in traditional sports and of course in esports, this can also be attributed to the rise of esports in general as well. Because we've seen the massive rise of esports in the Philippines, and what we wanted to push forward is a more structured approach and bigger awareness that this might happen even in the developmental leagues. But what we wanted to do right now is to make sure that you know and there is an existing protocol on how to report these kinds of issues. We wanted to let our athletes know that if you're being approached by someone, you should follow this protocol. And this is going to help them at least be at ease, because maybe they just don't know how to handle these kinds of situations. And a simple PM, a simple conversation about business opportunity, making money, is really, for these kids, possibly a life-changing scenario. And they wouldn't know what is the actual repercussions if they entertain this. So we really have to be more proactive and just letting everyone know that there will be, of course, stringent measures on how we push forward to combat this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For this question, are all the players that were involved underage?
No, not all the players involved are. It depends on the definition of underage, but from our definition, not all the players. 18. No, not all.
So, are we aware? Because we all know that, of course, there's an outside party involved,
Correct.
right? Are we aware of the identity of the outside party?
So we are not directly aware of the outside parties, but we do have some sort of idea. That's why we're actually having this and why we are extending our collaboration with also GAB. Because, like I mentioned, we're not stopping here, right? This is just to address a strong message that this is a serious thing against our league. That's why we're working together with PESO and also GAB. Even though they're not here, we've really reached out to them that we will be pursuing and doing more from this. But directly, we do have some understanding, but we cannot say that we know who and who is not.
Another question is, are there any third-party betting orgs involved?
From our knowledge at the moment, it's very individual driven. There's no direct, but we cannot really say.
So the money, money's off the record. There's a paper, there's some sort of paper trail.
It's mainly on just, there's only very minor paper trail.
Okay, I guess my last question would be, so I understand that most of the, if not all the players are minors. That's why we are protecting the names We don't give the full name, just give the IGNs. But however, if another org say wants to hold a tournament but doesn't want these people in their events, how will the information be available for them?
Okay, so I think I'll answer this from the Moontoon perspective because I think PESO also has their own sanctions. So number one, we actually share the official names to any relevant parties, for example PESO or our associations, and any party that works together with us through the esports for everyone program or any Moontoon sanction, we do have a database on it. Because it is all, if you look at the language, it's actually Moontoon supported events. So they will have access to that. It's just that through the public's eye, the reason why we don't share the names is it is not directly, I would say, required. It's also to just protect them in a broader scale.
On our side, we are coordinated with Moonton for participation because number one, they will be banned in all future national Seaball tryouts. Right? And of course, PESO sanctioned events and then PESO organized events. And I understand what you're saying is that the athletes are also the victims as well. And as much as possible, we wanted to find and chase sino tong mga bad actors na to. But of course, that is being, as of the moment, being pursued. And we cannot divulge all information, but gusto ko rin may mahuli yung masample na eh. Yung, para naman, kasi nakakainis eh. Diba? And these are kids, and I think their future is in jeopardy because of what they did, but at least on the bright side, they have 3 years to try to contemplate and make sure that they can recover for their career. At least I'm happy that it's not a lifetime ban because in PESO there was a really strong debate. Well, of course, PESO is different from Moonton, right? But we were saying that even these kids also need a chance to redeem themselves. So for us, 3 years is
In esports, 3 years is a long
3 years is a lifetime already, and I hope they can recover because I've seen some of naman naka-recover sa iba.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have one question for each of you. So firstly for Matthew, MDL has been done mostly online for the past 3 seasons, and honestly, we wouldn't have been able to learn of this issue if it weren't for the screenshots that were posted. So I just wanted to clarify, what are the operational guidelines for MPL, knowing that it's online, it's in the boot camps of each team? How do we make sure that when they're playing in their respective areas, how sure are we that they're not using any cheating softwares or
So I think for cheating softwares, we do actually can see because we have webcams and stuff. So I think that one, like for example, map packs and stuff, we have things to prevent that. Number two is whenever, even though they're online, we do have strict operations guidelines because even though MPL is online, we have been running even MPL last time in Philippines also online as well, right? Webcams, even referees going into their boot camps, we do practice all of this. So we make sure that if there's any anomaly, something that's out of the ordinary, we flag them directly. We also have other partners that helps us monitor on the outside to make sure that nothing, on a more direct basis, it's like even if the odds of the betting changes, we have to flag these things up. So to be honest with you, this wasn't really just flagged because of the screenshots. We actually know about it before that, and we were already doing active investigation before the screenshots being up already. But of course, we didn't want to be outside. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
And my question for Marlon, so has PESO thought of releasing guidelines on how to properly conduct online tournaments, especially given that it's more prone to match fixing and other issues like this, especially because it's done online?
Definitely, that's part of what we wanted to do. Also, constant communication with publishers on what are the dangers of possibly having these kinds of issues. And definitely there should be more awareness on the part of the professional teams. We, we just need to have a standard protocols, and then it must be for everyone must know this, so that if there is going to be a bad actor coming in, it can be reported and hopefully we can catch someone right away. So we're even thinking of doing bypass operations, in just making sure that you follow the protocol, and then we would even want to reward someone that will turn over these kinds of bad actors. Ganun na kami kakigil para maprotektahan din. Kasi as much as possible, we always see that the athletes yung natatamaan ng punishment, di ba? Those na nang-influence and nagpa-profit, gets away scot-free. So hopefully we can divulge after some time.
Thank you.
I have a question for Munton. After you found out about the match fixing issues, did you get to study the affected matches, and were there any glaring moments that some players are really throwing the game?
I think this is a question that we faced from even our internal teams. The upfront thing is that there's never a way to say, because players can have off days. You cannot really just say like, this guy is saying wrong things, he's making a bad call. Because if that's the case, then every game is going to be up for question. We cannot, we'll take the stance of everyone is innocent until it's proven guilty, right? But if there are certain anomalies that's really, really off, right? Like chat, and we do have a report, being proactive, right? That's why we're all here about being proactive with all the managers, all the players. If they require help, they can talk to us. But we cannot, there's no pinpoint of like a player was really off or anything.
Thank you.
Catherine, as I check the penalties, that if those three players have the same penalties, but how about at least one or all of those three players will join those community or LGU-based MLBB tournaments, plus Munton will have the verification and the control to check?
I think for LG, I'll let him answer. But for Munton, I think it's the same answer of what I mentioned. Any competition that's officially hosted with the support of Munton, they will be within the database, so they cannot play in all those official Munton competitions. For LGU, I think he has the same answer, where PESO also have similar this, right?
Yes, if PESO sanctioned and PESO organized events, we would have access. But to answer your question on very LGU specific side, might have been challenges, to be honest.
But there's a chance that we can report it just in case we see them through live stream.
Yes, ano naman, that can be reported to PESO naman. But the main thing here is the athletes are not banned to engage in other esports activities, right? Because you cannot say that if I just play this game, I cannot play on another game, right? So they still have their own access to other games, but MLBB definitely they are for the duration of their punishment, 3 years.
I think that by the way, just behind you, the guy also has been raising his hand. So later we can give it to him. Because I see he has been raising it for quite a long time.
Is for Mark. For Sir Mark, because kasi based according to what Sir Mark said earlier about the experiences, based on my own experience or based on what I've observed, some of the events where match is so competitive is in those amateur leagues, those leagues that are not GAP sanctioned. So like, and you're gonna put up your own amateur league, for example, league. So in that said, what based on the lessons you've learned from this MDLH catch fishing debacle, what will be how will you police the potential game fixing allegations that would happen in any other amateur leagues?
Definitely for peso sanction events and peso own events, we have our own protocols and we have our own league ops team to actually address this issue. It's really important that even on the amateur side, our league ops are really very optimal and very competent on what kinds of protocols and what league operations they will be doing. So on peso sanction events and peso organized events, we should have no problem because we actually coordinate with the Muntun team and exchange the best practices. On non-peso sanction events, that's where we actually need to reach out also. Because anyone can actually create, one of the great things of Muntun of MLBB's game is you can actually create or do a community-based event, right? And that could be considered amateur, right? And then, of course, if you just do it with passion or with love and it becomes big, right? You have to know the SOPs. And Peso will always be there naman to help you. Just reach out to us so that you know the best practices. If you know the best practices, then most probably, medyo alam mo na kung paano patakbuhin yung tournament na 90% walang issue. You know? But that's a lot because MLBB, I mean, Muntun's game is really popular and community driven. So anyone can actually create a community league and then offer a big cash prize, right? And then push forward sa mga participants. So for us, it's more of also being proactive in making sure the resources are given to the public and to the league operators that would want to know yung protocols.
So yun, you mentioned already yung mga community leagues, yan, mga inter-barangay, yung mga mas alam akong pustahan. So with that said, would you be requiring the organizers of the community events na kumain sa inyo or what's gonna happen?
Definitely what we want is to offer guidance because if you want your event to be peso sanctioned, you also have to follow peso protocols.
Okay, I have a phone-in question. This came from Fragster.com. For both Peso and Munton, can we hear more updates about Jigen Paul Masangkay, the guy named by Coach Ducky to be involved in the match-fixing fiasco? What sanctions will be given to him as well?
I think this is actually something we were in discussion with, and this is where we are having initiatives to work together with PESO and JAP to further on. So maybe PESO will be more appropriate for this question.
So definitely what's going to happen is we need GAP's guidance on this because number one, this event is sanctioned by GAP. And then moving forward, we have to cooperate with them and then do of course evaluation kung ano yung final na pwedeng I would say final decision on what kind of punishment or sanction it could be done. So again, everything needs to be in process. You have to stick to the truth and it should apply to our Philippine local laws. That's important because sabihin lang ng media, but ano nangyari, what happened or ba't ang bagal? You have to understand that there is a process that we need to follow. Hindi siya basta-basta. And one of the biggest concern is also like the validity of what we're claiming. If it's a screenshot, it might not spell everything again. Right? So we have to be very cautious. A screenshot is not a factual evidence. Parang ganun. You have to make sure that everything is investigated properly. Right? So, yeah.
follow up to that question, since the players are not sanctioned in other games, can they also join PESO events on other MOBA titles, or is the ban blanketed towards all games for PESO?
I have to get back to you. That's a great question. I have to get back to you on Cebol's involvement on this. I have to consult GM Dev. Initially, the ban only compasses ML. So they can still play esports for now. Okay, for now. You have to clear this one up to Cebol.
Another phone-in question. This is from Carlos Pineda of Spin.ph. What were the most notable instances of match fixing that you've heard in the Philippines? I guess this goes to both of you.
Most notable, if you've been around Dota days, there was a brand, and then this day Evolution, right? And these are the actual 322. That's why the 322 guys here in the Philippines are actually named too. So, and they've learned the lesson. Some of them has been lifetime banned by Valve, right? So, happily naman, they actually had their own different sets of careers. But looking back, it's the same. They were offered a business opportunity. So, I mean, goes to show that you really have to take care of your esports career. As a professional, you shouldn't even be entertaining any kinds. That's number one. So, that was like years ago talaga. And at the time, Dota has been the prevalent game. And also, it was also like this. We had an internal investigation, even though wala pang peso. We had an internal investigation. We even have to coordinate with a website to collaborate the actual data to make sure that this aligns with the evidence that we have. And nag-align nga. So, in a way, the biggest problem of that was the perpetrator got scot-free. That's why may personal vendetta ako na, uy, meron na naman ganyan. Kailangan talaga mahuli eh. Kailangan masampulan eh. Hindi mo makalaboso talaga. Mabigyan ba? Kumbaga sa gaming terms. Kailangan mabigyan eh. Mabigyan itong mga to para talagang safe. Kasi nangyari ulit eh after a decade, I guess. So, it's not a good memory to be honest, but been there, done that.
Can I have a question? My last two questions is for you, Mike. How did we arrive at the 3-year ban? Is this something that is this something you'd call compassionate justice, considering that it's not a lifetime ban? Yeah, a lot of media are asking.
Okay, so I think the first understanding of this, we need to put it in the context of how Ubuntu tackles bans, right? This, if you look at the history of all other MPLs or any Ubuntu-related items, this is actually one of the harshest already. And this is like what you mentioned, it's an unfortunate event. This is 3 years. And the reason why you put 3 years instead of something like indefinite is because we want to showcase a specific timeline. Because indefinite, we can put it after a year and remove it or anything like that. So how we came to this conclusion is that, number one, it is within the eyes of like Muntun, this is one of the harshest already. And this is just the start of how we want to govern this. That's why we are putting together initiative together with PESO and GAT. So we will get their guidance to see what is a better answer, solution moving forward.
Thank you. And my last question is for Sir Marlon. It's very obvious that you're very passionate about this issue. You're very indignant. What do you want players and the audience to understand about match fixing and how it affects the esports industry in the country?
I mean, for the players and everyone in their specific sport, you just have to love the sport and do your best. Opportunities like financial, sponsorship, all those stuff will come if you just stick to your guns and try to win. Winning is everything. So focus on winning, and then the other stuff will come. I guess for the lesson for today is you just have to create an environment where everyone in your team is proactive, in a sense that there are a lot of bad actors lurking out, right? And with the protocols already at your organization, at least you know you have a peace of mind that these bad actors will be kept away. Because to be honest, of course, the temptation of short-term gain, short-term money is appealing to some, but that's the repercussions and the, I would say, yung pinaka essence ng sports nawawala eh. So we must be, I would say, we must be very careful on how to do this, and everyone must be involved, from managers, staff, coaches, team owners. The protocols must be in place. Kailangan lang matutunan lahat yan. And if someone breaks the protocols, then you would know. We have to face the fact that bad actors want to come in and disrupt the league. This is a given fact. But as an organization, as a community, we must be vigilant in policing ourselves as well.
Thank you po. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Last question, please.
One more question for you. Since I don't know this is a good question for us, but is there a chance that a higher office, higher than GAB, could intervene in this? Let's say, if I can recall, in another league, the Senate even intervened, even isang senator, even clear the list of those who are blacklisted for game fixing. So is there a chance that a higher office or even a Senate could intervene here, or would you want it na dito pa lang sa peso GAB level matapos ng issue?
Definitely, we would want to finish it in PESO or GAB's guidance. Shouldn't go further than that. The dream is to make sure that the perpetrators, the bad actors, gets punished by the full extent of the law, right? And then we protect everyone. I guess this is also the challenge of esports, because our professionals are really some of them are not fully adults pa, right? This is an industry wherein you can be a pro at the age of 15, at the age of 16, and you don't know the repercussions, right? In the world full of predators and bad actors. Sa iba kasi, you become pro maybe around 19, 21. So we are a bit prone to predatory attacks and bad actors just because of the age gap that we have. That's why, other than of course making sure that the protocols are updated, we must be as a community, be as one, and not tolerating these kinds of behavior and bad actors. Kaya gusto ko talaga may masampulan, may mahuli. Di ba? At ma-bypass operation natin, di ba? Business opportunity, pwede. O, sige. Tapos, yun na yan. Mabigyan lang. Isa lang talaga, promise.
I mean, this one is more on, like, the reason why we're doing this is because we trust our partners of like PESO and GAB with their guidance to I would say enforce to the full laws of what Philippines do. I mean, I'll be upfront, I'm not Filipino, but that's why I require their guidance, and it's also our local colleagues as well.
All right, thank you very much, Sir Marlon and Matthew.